This is the Brella Community Services Podcast with Michael Morgan and Raj Sahota, talking about the I'm Still Me project, a support talk about dementia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Morgan, and my co-host is Raj Sahota. Hi, Raj.
Hello, Michael.
So, Raj works for Brella, and Brella is in the business of caring and providing services for people who are aging and dementia and Alzheimer's. And Raj, I wonder if you might just tell us a bit of history about Brella, what you've done and what you do.
All right. So Brella Community Service Society was actually originally known as Seniors Come Cheer Society for about 40 years. The organization was founded in 1977 by Ellen Sinclair Kennett, Ida Miller, Joyce Kennett, Joyce Palmer, Muriel Brody, and Reverend Howard Filsner. They recognized that there was a need for services to support their older neighbors who struggled with loneliness and isolation. And what they did was they found and they learned about the Adult Day program in Vancouver, and they successfully secured funding under the New Horizons Seniors Initiative Grant. So that grant lasted a year, and that marked the birth of Rock Come Cheer Society as its first Adult Day program in White Rock. The board then intensified its effort and secured long-term contracts with the Ministry of Health and then later with Fraser Health. And that's where we are today. So over the years, the day program actually expanded from 2 to 6 days a week across South Surrey, Newton, and Guildford. The organization evolved beyond White Rock, leading to the renaming of Seniors Come Cheer Society, and then eventually to Brella Community Services Society because it emphasizes inclusivity, adapting to changing community needs. And Brella now operates under 3 main banners. We have the Adult Day Program, Community Services, and we have Dementia Caregiver and Family Services.
Wow. And we're going to introduce the other folks that are on screen. Nancy Wocher is a professional in the field of care. And Nancy, do you want to explain to us where you work and what you do and how important it is to the people you serve?
Thank you, Michael. My name is Nancy Wocher. I'm the resource clinician for overnight respite and adult day programs in Richmond. And I did a lot of this kind of work in Vancouver as well. And over the years, I've been in the field of healthcare for close to 30 years. Much of it has been with the older adult population and those struggling with the progressive conditions of dementia and Parkinson's. And but what I really have a heart and a passion for are the caregivers who care for them, because these conditions and the struggles of contending with them not only affect the person, but also affect those closest to them. So that's a little bit about what I do, where I do it, and what I'm also most passionate about is others who are passionate about the similar kind of work. And so, Raj, when you were describing Brella Society and its 3 banners, yes, I'm familiar with all of those programs and similar programs like that in Vancouver and in Richmond specifically. And what I'm inspired by are people and professionals who are drawn to those kind of programs and to these kinds of services.
Perfect. And the last person to introduce is a man for whom I have profound respect. You may or may not have heard of his journey, and I'll let him explain that to you. But I'd like to say the most outstanding quality of our next guest, Roger Hope, is that he channeled the grief and the heartache that came from being one of the people that you folks are talking about giving services to. He's there. And he created something so fantastic. And I just heard it yesterday. Roger, would you explain why I invited you here and about your little secret surprise of how you channeled your grief?
Well, I was a television news cameraman for 44 years at Global BC. It used to be called BC TV. And I'm also Deborah Hope's husband, or was. I'm a widower now, of course. And She was an anchor there for a very long time, and she got Alzheimer's, and game on, really. And so we went through that journey together. It took about 9 years, and she passed last May. One of the great things about Deborah that I really loved that we had in common was our love of music. And she was a great singer. And when we lost everything else and all of the communication was at a standstill, we managed to communicate with music. And I would write songs for her or about her or not. But while she was there, and she managed to hang in with music right until the end. It was a phenomenal thing to see. And so I ended up putting all of this music together on an album, and I named it after her. She has an unusual spelling. It's Deborah, Deborra. And that's how we got through this together. And I don't know how people would get through this without music. I mean, that's how important it was for us. That's it.
Thank you, Roger. We'll get back to you in a minute because I'd like to talk a little bit more of the music and perhaps some advice that you might give to people who are just beginning the journey that you have been through and are still on. Raj, there's an outreach coming from Brella throughout communities. And the purpose of this, perhaps you could explain, why are you, and it is you, going out into the community, inviting people to come and listen and talk and share? What is Brella's purpose for that?
Okay, so we are doing the I'm Still Me project. And of that project, I'm the research and evaluation coordinator. And this initiative actually aligns with Canada's national dementia strategy, which aims to educate on dementia, destigmatize it, and raise awareness around it. So that's primarily what we're doing. We're trying to create a safe space where everyone feels welcome and able to come and ask questions without being judged, and just to create awareness around dementia and caregivers and families and loved ones, and kind of destigmatize it. So once you start creating these conversations, more people are open to asking questions, which will help people get earlier diagnoses and help prolong their dementia diagnoses and kind of keep everything at bay and their cognitive stimulation going as well.
And do we have the actual dates and times? We have that, don't we? That's on the website.
Yes, all the information of the upcoming webinars can be found on our website. I can also send them out via email. We have 3 coming up in January and another 6 scheduled for February. And so far, 2 are in the works for March.
Am I given to understand there's lunch?
Yes, there is lunch is provided for all of these events.
That's great. And you'll be the one that's talking to the folks. You'll be correct. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Nancy, if you had to list the 3, from your experience of 30 years, the 3 pivotal points that happen in a caregiver's life when they first learn that this is a terminal condition or it's lifelong, it's not curable. What are the 3 points that you are aware of and know?
Well, it's hard to summarize in just 3 points, but definitely for the caregiver, I think it's a diagnosis like this is just as impactful to them as it is to the person who has the illness. It doesn't just happen to the person with the diagnosis, it happens to those that love and care for them as well too, as I'm sure Roger can attest to. And so in many ways, in the initial stages, what I have observed is that it is the person with the diagnosis that is most anxious about it, or anxious about the future of their spouse or caregivers or children, family, etc. As the disease progresses and as the cognitive skills change and the ability to be aware so much about changes happening to themselves, we see that it's a little bit more challenging. It grows increasingly more challenging for the caregiver. And both the caregiver and the individual become as isolated. Oftentimes it's a challenge to socialized to keep the same social circles and friends who, again, experience it as very awkward, I think. And so I feel for the spouses who become isolated as a result of it, and are likewise burdened in, well, I shouldn't say burdened, but they are having to step up and take on much more in the partnership or in the roles that they have in the family. And so these are some of the things that I've observed as some of the experiences that caregivers have talked to me about. And that's where organizations and agencies like Brella, like any adult day program, any overnight respite program, any community services program, the health authorities with case managers and home supports can come alongside and support you in this journey. And my recommendation to any caregiver is grow your networks of support. That's really key and fundamental, because you it can't carry this alone, and you can't do this alone. And drawing on others to support you is the best thing that you can do for your loved one. We often talk about the caregiving for your one starts with caregiving for yourself. You'll hear people say things like, in a crisis situation, you put your own oxygen mask on first before you help the other person. And so, but I think there's a little bit of even just a stigma amongst caregivers that, oh, well, no, I can't take time for myself. My loved one needs me. And in fact, more than anything, your loved one needs you to be healthy and strong and restored and rejuvenated and renewed in order to sustain them. So that's something. And yeah, to reach out to organizations like the Alzheimer's Society, the Family Caregivers of British Columbia, and to connect with those who are also walking this same road.
So, Roger, in the early days, you had a double load. I mean, that's why I said to you a couple of times in the last 48 hours how you have an enormous amount of courage. Because, first of all, you were married to a woman that everybody loved. So everybody had a buy-in on Deborah and how she was doing, and they watched her, and she was on TV. In the early days, when you sensed that something wasn't quite right, how did you manage the relationship and keeping positive, knowing that perhaps there was 9 years ahead of a long journey? How did you keep that together for the both of you?
Boy, before she was diagnosed and we suspected that, something was wrong, we had a conversation in the kitchen, and she talked to me and she said, "I'm so sorry, honey. This is going to happen, and there's no cure for this. It killed my dad, and I want to apologize to you right now." And that's pretty much the only time we spoke about it. And then, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you'll be okay, And she says, "No, I won't be. This is where we're headed." So getting it, I think what Raj is saying, I think what Brella's doing sounds great. When I first took Deb to her doctor, to talk to her about, okay, well, what is really going on here? I couldn't get her diagnosed by anybody. I would take her to specialists, and they would say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with her." Okay, Alzheimer's killed her father when she was 61. So it took me a while to get that to happen. But the only advice I got at the very beginning was from her doctor when we were in the office, and Deb was talking to the doctor, and the doctor very on the side sort of turned to me and she said, "Are you still working?" And I said, "Yes." "Why?" She said, "Don't quit your job. It'll save your life." And I'm like, because Deb seems fine to me, but, I had no idea what was to come. And it's coming. And it's bad. Okay?
Yes. And we have I'll be back to you with yet another question as we go along here. Raj, I guess people viewing this will say, what would a young, upwardly mobile handsome person like yourself do caring for old, demented people. What is it about that field that attracts people? Because I know a number of folks who do the work and they love the work. It's not just a job, there's something else going on. What is that?
It's the emotional fulfillment that you get from it. It really feeds the soul. Primarily, the reason I started was because of my grandfather. Both grandfathers had dementia. One had Alzheimer's, and the other had unspecified dementia. So I grew up taking care of them. And it's kind of, once they both passed away, I felt like something was missing. And that's where I found this field. So by profession, I am a certified recreation therapist. And at the day program, or at Brella, I am the day program manager for our South Surrey location. And currently, I assumed the responsibilities of the research and evaluation coordinator because I feel it's very important that we bring awareness about dementia. We talk about it. Not many people know about dementia. I didn't really hear about it till I was in the 8th grade. And it was then when my grandfather was diagnosed. So until you kind of do your research or you hear about it, no one really talks about it. So for me, it's the emotional fulfillment that I get from it. I'm finding that is the same for quite a few people that I talk about in the field.
Is it your belief, and I'll send this off to Nancy, do people, when their loved ones start to display these signs, how long do they usually go into hiding and denial before they have to do something about it?
Oh, it's years. My grandfather denied it for years. He blamed it on old age. It gets mistaken for just active aging a lot of the times.
Yeah.
There's things which kind of happen slowly and they progress over time. So as you're living with that individual, you don't really realize it until a third party comes in and says, oh, it's been about 2 months and this is really different. Something's definitely changed because of the small minor changes that we make in our everyday life. We don't realize it. So if we're finding that they're having difficulty eating, we'll start doing helping them. So we'll cut up their food for them. So it's small little minor changes that build up. And then generally, it'll be months before they get the help, primarily because it's the stigma as well of being diagnosed with dementia that goes with it. So they don't want to be labeled.
Tell me something, Roger. How was it for you? There obviously
I like what Nancy just said.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm going to throw to you as a person who experienced it to add to that. I guess the point being, how do you keep from being angry or being frustrated as you're losing the person? I mean, they start out reasonably well. I understand that there's some loss of keys and they get confused in other events, but eventually, excuse me, eventually what happens is that you're having a conversation and they're no longer able to participate.
You just have to be strong, I think, and you tap into the relationship, the love you have for that person, and we have a family and we have daughters together, and I don't know how, but you have to figure out a way.
So you can't get mad. I mean, that doesn't help.
You can't get mad, that's for sure. And if you do, I mean, it can happen. And if you do, you regret it and you apologize. And no one's perfect, and it can happen to all of us. But I think when we started on this journey together, I had no idea what dementia was, as Nancy was just talking about. And I think a little more education in that area might go a long way with. I mean, the baby boomers are heading there, aren't we? So there's going to be a lot more of this coming up for sure. It's a very difficult road to take, but you just have to find it within yourself to do it, and people can do it. And there are lots of disappointments. You lose all your friends, setbacks, but you get used to it. Then you're bitter and you're angry. But then, I had a really interesting thing happen. We pretty much lost everybody. People that we've been with for 30 years and traveled the world with and so on. And so suddenly you realize, okay, I'm completely alone and we're on our own. And then out of nowhere, people you may not have known as well or others sort of stepped up and walked in and filled those voids. and they're my friends now. But, you know, when that happened, I learned a great deal about life. And I was very, very happy that that happened for me, that others stepped up. But it's a lonely road, and you just have to buckle down and get her done.
As you said before. Raj, from the aspect of being able to, I guess, access services, are there many services? I mean, how do people immerse themselves in the ability to be able to access services, get them so that they're helping and know what to ask for and when and from whom?
There are a lot of services out there. Somebody once described Brella as the best kept secret in town. Not many people knew about us, although we've been around for the past 45 years. We were still unknown, kind of. So just doing the research, going online, we have resources available on our website, not only the Brella website, but also the I'm Still Me website. You can get research, services through Vancouver Coastal Health. You can get resources through Fraser Health. Reaching out to any of the health authorities, they'll be able to set you up and kind of let you know what day programs are within your community, whether you can have home support, calling the seniors line. I believe it's 811. They'll be able to set you up with anything as well. Either calling our community services line as well. If we don't have the answer, we will definitely look into it and find something for you.
Nancy, I know you're not a physician, but you obviously are keeping abreast of where this is going. I mean, we have a tsunami. Roger pointed out that as this demographic ages, expect much, much more in the way of dementia and the services that can support it. From your experience and what you were saying before, is there an easier way to negotiate and navigate when a loved one is diagnosed than what is currently available?
Yeah, we really do need a client and caregiver strategy across this province and across this country. It seems a little easier with diagnoses like cancer. There are cancer agencies, there are cancer social workers. Seems a little easier to even so for people who have kidney disease. There are a suite of professionals who will wrap services around clients and families and direct you, but not so much for the area of dementia, even still, despite the many, many resources and supports that we do have out there. And I think, I agree. And even so, for now, they're just recognizing, for example, that it's very helpful to have Indigenous First Nations health navigators throughout the system. And health navigators for other vulnerable populations as well who need to access the system. How much more so do we need for those who have dementia and their loved ones who don't necessarily know or understand the system because they're not in healthcare? And I think as healthcare clinicians, we forget because everything's so intuitive for us as to how to navigate the system, and we forget that these pathways aren't generally obvious to the general public until they're hit with a diagnosis like this. So yes, we could do more to put systems navigators in place. We could do more to educate our primary care providers, our general physicians, and also specialists in gerontology need to be made aware of a lot of these resources and supports that are out there, and older adult mental health teams, etc., who also can support and actually even do have older adult geriatric psychiatrists and geriatricians who can support the process of coming to a diagnosis after they rule out everything else that could be affecting cognition in the older adult. So, that's just
go ahead.
Examples.
You're what you're saying is really what people need to hear, that there's hope, because Raj, for the most part, dementia is frightening for people. I come from a generation that used to think that if you were 30, you were finished. And now they're 70 and they're 80. and it's a fearful thing. How do you make dementia friendly enough for a government, a federal government, to put money into it and take it on and recognize it's absolutely important?
So the Canadian government has actually started the dementia strategy. It was launched in June 2019, and this is a 5-year plan, which will help raise dementia awareness, surveillance, guidance on diagnosis and treatment, and research. It actually stemmed from the World Health Organization's Global Action Plan on the public health response to dementia, which was a plan that they created from 2017 to 2025. This aims to improve the lives of people with dementia, their caregivers and families, and decrease the impact of dementia on communities and countries. So Canada is currently in alignment with helping meet these global goals, and one of the ways that it's being achieved is actually through our project.
So you're, together with the federal government, shining a new light on a rather arcane, if not frightening, disease that is hitting us like a tsunami. Is that you're saying there may even be hope out there?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
We're trying to shed some light on it.
Roger, I'm going to leave the last segment to you.
Okay.
I don't know anybody that has been able to take all of the grief and the hurt and the heartache that came to you over 9 years and channel it into something so incredibly healing as a double-sided album.
Well, you know, I've always had a passion for music, and we've always had music in the house. And it's one of the few things, if not the only thing at the end, that she really loved. And so it just worked for us. But I just also would like to say that, you know, if you love the person you're with, that, you know, the journey's tough. Yeah, it's hard. And you're going to lose all your friends, and there's nowhere to go. But if you're in love with the person, you know, you never lose that love, and you just go that on that journey together. So don't be afraid. You know, get out there. You can do this. It's not easy, but it can be done. As far as the music is concerned, I can't believe it. I'd be leaning on the wheelchair because I'm taking her out of the building when she's in permanent care, because who wants to stay in there? And I would talk to her, and I would start singing these songs to her. And for the last year, she was more or less like this, looking up into the sky like that. And I would talk about the children, and then occasionally I would make up a song. So I'm leaning on the wheelchair arm, and I started singing this song. And she does this. So her face is here, and I'm here. And she goes, and then she starts going, and I went, okay, she hasn't made a sound in 8 months, right? So I'm like, okay, she likes this one. So I grabbed the phone and I sang the song into the phone. It's called I'm Your Puppet. And I think it's the best song I've ever written. So I gave her a writer's credit. So that's just before she passed away. So, you know, if you're in love with the person you're with, you can still find some joy there. I took her on trips when I shouldn't have. I took her to Africa twice after she'd been diagnosed, and I took that risk. So, yeah, you can do this. That's all we got.
All right. Well, we'll dip into your courage. Raj, thank you for allowing me to host this show. Thank you for co-hosting it with me. The website again, where people can see where you will be and when.
It is brella.ca/I'm Still Me.
All right. And Nancy, thank you for coming all the way from Vancouver to talk to us about your experience. We'll be doing many more of these, but as the first one, I can't thank you all enough. You added such a new dementia, and I feel I thought I'd be maybe sad or perplexed or bemused walking away from this, but I actually feel encouraged. I've enjoyed every second of this, and I thank you, and we will do this again. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
This was the Brella Community Services Society podcast with Michael Morgan and Raj Sahota. For more information, go to our website at www.brellasociety.ca.